What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode at Moses Corner. Today, we're going to talk about an important topic, something that happened this past Thursday. It's basically an unfortunate scandal that's unfolding over at the Starbucks restaurant located in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, there were two black men that were arrested just because they didn't want to leave the premises. Further details to follow. I actually have someone on board right now by the name of Devin that's actually going to participate with me today on this podcast and talk about a little bit about the issue and give our opinions and whatnot. So just to give a little bit of an intro on it, from reports says that in Philadelphia, the Starbucks restaurant, there were two black gentlemen that walked into this restaurant, wanted to use the bathroom. They were declined, so they sat down. And one of the employees, it's not clear if it was an employee or if it was the manager of that location that approached the two black men and asked them to leave the premises. And they asked why. Unfortunately, it turns out because they made no purchase or whatever the case may be. But in this circumstance, it seems that it was more of a racial thing based on what the reports are saying. So what I'm gonna do is, as a courtesy, I'm gonna pass it over to Devin to give his point of view, how he feels about it, and whatnot. So, Dev, take it over, kid.
All right. Well, see, the weird thing is, so I guess you're reading from the first print of this, like when they first brought it up, because since then they actually updated the story. So apparently, because as we all thought before, was that the manager approached them, et cetera, et cetera. Apparently, that actually never happened.
Right.
So what actually ended up happening, apparently, was these guys were actually never even approached. The cops were called before anyone spoke to them.
Really?
So the first time they were actually made aware that they needed to go was when the officers asked them to leave.
Wow. So no employee, no manager actually approached them. So it's a little different from what was mentioned earlier. Not so long ago, there was a breaking news about, I think it was 8 p.m. today, give or take, that apparently, they were approached by the cops and whatnot. And, supposedly, I don't know, it was just really weird, man. Like, some situation where their associate or someone was coming by, and apparently they were waiting for a friend, someone that they actually were doing business with, some gentleman that showed up, which is actually on the video. And apparently the reason for the meet was regarding a deal regarding real estate or doing like a business transaction of some kind. So that was actually pretty interesting to actually hear that, coming from a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it was actually pretty ironic and kind of perfect timing, because you figure if not for their friend eventually coming as they were being arrested, you figure if you subtract that from the story, who knows if it gets told the same way?
Yeah.
Who knows if they have that same fact? Because now it's a fact. You can't even debate it now. The
Right.
gentlemen, and they're actually all real estate people. So that's actually why they were meeting up. So, I mean, what I thought was interesting is all of the people who actually spoke up, I mean, ironically, they were white.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, to be honest with you, that's actually great, because that's kind of what you need.
No,
I mean,
I
you
agree.
need for the people who aren't affected by it to speak up. And that's actually what happened.
Yeah.
Ironically, even the gentleman who showed up, I mean, his initial question was, okay, well, what crime did they commit? Like, what were they doing? And ironically, which is hilarious, they were told they were trespassing, which
Right.
is actually impossible in a business during, business hours.
Right.
So, I mean, we all know that that's, ridiculous. And not to mention, I mean, we've all been inside of a Starbucks. There are plethoras of people doing absolutely nothing, who purchase nothing for hours on end.
Oh yeah.
And they're never approached.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I mean, speaking on the topic, I live 2 blocks away from a Starbucks, and every time I pass by there, I mean, they have different cultures, different people from all walks of life in there. And dude, a lot of the times I see people there on their computers chilling. I don't see them with a cup of coffee in their hand, just chilling, hanging out with no issues, which I found it kind of odd. The crazy thing is, based on doing a little bit of research on the web, this is actually not the first incident. There was an incident, they didn't specify a date or when, but there was a gentleman, black gentleman, that was denied the bathroom, but saw that a white person walked in, asked to use the bathroom, and the employee gave that person the code. So he was feeling some type of way. And he actually documented it on the video as well. I'm not sure if I have it here open on the page or not, but yeah, I did see that earlier today. So this is something that's not new. You know what I'm saying? Now, before we even go into a little bit further, for some of the people that are actually watching right now, I'm gonna play the video. The person that actually recorded the whole incident and was the eyewitness was a woman by the name of Melissa DePino. She was the one that actually documented the whole incident and bared witness to the whole situation. And to be honest, I give this woman kudos, a lot of respect, because these are the things that I feel have to be done in order to correct these kind of situations. I mean, let's be honest, racism, I feel like that's something that, is always going to be around, unfortunately. There's a lot of ignorant people out there. So, I mean, God willing, one day, hopefully that diminishes, but who knows? But let me see if I can post this up for you guys right now. Give me 1 second here. All right, so here I got the video. I'm gonna play it for you guys.
Don't get no fight with them. Don't get no fight with them.
Now, this video is actually playing straight from the Twitter page of Melissa DePino.
What did they get called for? Because there are two black guys sitting here meeting me? Yes. Well, what did they do? What did they do? Someone tell me what they did.
That's crazy. The associate that actually came to Sync for Business was like, hey, they didn't do anything. What did they do? It's crazy.
Well, surprise.
Yeah, it was like a quick 45-second clip that she posted. So yeah, so that was a quick 45-second clip that was posted by this young woman, and you know what? Again, a lot of kudos to her for actually exposing this. The crazy part about it, I mean, it's quite evident. I mean, the guys weren't doing anything in the video. They actually show how calm, cool, and quiet these guys were. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wasn't trying to be rowdy. They wasn't trying to act ratchet or anything like that, and the cops just came in. Hey, you guys got to go. They were telling them, don't put up a fight, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's pretty sad, man. One of the things that I actually admire, though, is the CEO of Starbucks stepped up to the plate and he accepted full responsibility for what happened. I mean, that's the only thing he can really do, to be quite honest. And he had his mention how it was reprehensible, the whole situation, and he wanted to give his apologies directly in front of these two gentlemen and whatnot. I mean, of course, this is something that's going to be followed up big time, because these guys already have attorneys and whatnot, so I'm pretty sure these guys are going to seek some kind of retribution. I was also reading that the Philadelphia councilman, I believe is Kenyatta Johnson, was jumping in and getting involved with the whole situation and spoke directly to the CEO of Starbucks and, giving his thoughts on how situations like this shouldn't occur, shouldn't happen. And you know what? I totally agree. I mean, the sad part about it is that you'll never know if you're going to get a genuine apology or if it's going to be, straight up, real, because at the end of the day, it's all about business. Of course, you want to preserve the face of a company. So you're going to do whatever it takes to try to correct the situation, but the councilman was talking about, coming up with a training for the employees on how to deal with situations like that and so forth. But the crazy part from what I read on the story was that we don't know what's gonna happen to either the manager or should I say the employee that called 911 and filed the complaint. There's no word if that person was terminated, or there's no word if that person is still with the company, or if they move that person to another location. I mean, to be quite honest, from the perspective of a business, you can't just let somebody go just like that. I mean, come on, you have human resources you have to go through, then that could be another legal problem. So, based on what the CEO, I think his name is Kevin Johnson, the CEO of Starbucks, he said that, the way he's going to handle the situation is that he needs to see the big picture. He needs to do their own investigation, find out what happened. Because, again, there's two sides to a story. In this case, what was documented was what it was. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, at the end of the day, racism is something that I feel needs to be diminished. It's ridiculous. It's ignorant. Again, we're in a country that was built on the backs of a lot of immigrants, and at the end of the day, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how do you feel about that, Dev?
Well, just to also kind of reiterate some of the stuff you already mentioned. So I actually saw earlier that the manager was let go.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I actually share the same opinion as you. I actually don't feel he should have been let go. And I'm going to tell you why. I actually feel like that's counterproductive.
Okay.
I feel like this would have been a teachable situation to someone, and I feel like you alleviate that by, like, you pretty much killed that possibility. Because let's be real, now that he's been fired, you think that the next time he's around a group of black people, he's thinking better than what he was before? Probably not.
I hear you.
And while I do agree that, unfortunately, racism is everything until it stops being everything. And what I mean by that is the fact that a lot of these things are already predetermined. Like the gentleman sat down, and before they said a word, before they could do anything, there was an assumption already made. Even from a standpoint of feeling like he couldn't approach them as the manager. Whereas in a normal situation, you would say, hey, guys, I need you guys to order something. And that step wasn't even taken because of a stereotype.
Right.
An assumption that they would immediately become aggressive or something of that nature, which unfortunately is not as simple as changing the minds of people. It's about representation.
Right.
If you go on any single Law and Order show, most of the time the victim is a young white woman. The killer a lot of times is, or the quote unquote thug, he's a young black man. I mean, so you come in with these predetermined, ideas of people,
right,
and
right.
You never get past it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, I will give the CEO credit for personally taking responsibility, because let me tell you, Starbucks' original apology was terrible.
Right.
So that was almost required. Other part is I have to second, agree with you again, that the fact that he was just fired for this, I thought beyond just the other learning possibility, it kind of seems like he shouldn't have been able to just do that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's questionable in itself. As far as the two gentlemen, shockingly, we haven't heard anything from them. And I'm kind of curious to hear, like, what they, how they directly feel about the situation.
Right.
I mean, I myself, of course, I've been, stereotyped all the time. I've dealt with this all the time. But, every single situation is different. Like, there is no situation that is exactly the same. The experience, I've never been thrown out of Starbucks.
Right.
So I would, in front of, people, and I mean, and man, listen, the protest has gotten crazy on top of that.
Right.
So I don't know though. I mean, like I said, I understand people wanting to boycott, and I'm kind of on board with it. It's just, to me, to boycott, to go to another location, this would possibly happen again, is pointless. But I do think you have to hold companies accountable, and boycotting is a great way to do that.
Right,
and it continues to obviously work, because without the boycott throughout the day and Twitter, who's to say that he says anything or ever comments on any of this?
Right.
So.
Nah, I hear you, bro. I definitely concur with what you're saying. 100%. I mean, as far as the boycotting, I don't know. I feel kind of different on that. Like, I mean, considering that I just found out about that second incident that didn't blow up or go viral with that other gentleman that was black and was denied to use the bathroom because I guess he didn't purchase, a cup of coffee or made a purchase at all. But I don't know. I mean, damn, it's kind of hard because it's like just because of one individual, because of one person's lack of, I can't say knowledge, but just ignorance or just not really thinking through the repercussions of their actions, made something so small, so big. Because it's like all they wanted to do was just wait till their, their colleague came, their coworker, whoever that individual was, to do business with. All of this could have been avoided. This could have been a huge headache that could have just whisked right by. But unfortunately, because of, whatever reason, I mean, in this case, I guess for racial, matters, I don't want to, put words in anybody's mouth, but based on the reports, it's terrible. But as far as boycotting, yes, I think that's a great way to get your point across. But I mean, at the same time, that's concerning because I feel that boycotts, as of lately, especially with everything that's going on with Trump and stuff like that, when he first got in office, like a lot of the boycotts tend to turn into these big ass riots, which is unnecessary. And that's scary because now you have employees, in that establishment that, weren't either involved in the situation or maybe don't think like the person or the manager that called the cops, and God forbid they get hurt or something like that because this ends up turning into something bad. But based on a report, all these people walked in there, they were boycotting, and, gratefully everything turned out to be peaceful. They eventually walked out, they shut down the shop and whatnot. And from what they said, it opened up later on in the day, whatever the case may be. But, I mean, I don't know, man. I think it's fantastic that the measure that, Kevin Johnson, the CEO of Starbucks, wants to take measures in terms of, proper training and dealing with situations like this. I think that's good. And I feel that that's something that every company should follow in terms of respecting everyone based on, skin pigment or creed and religion, shouldn't be discriminated on. Everyone should be treated equally. But at the same time, you can do all the trainings in the world. I mean, you can do you could do the best you can, but at the end of the day, people are people. The human beings. If they're wired, if they're wired a certain way, if their culture, their upbringing was based on ignorance and racism, that's kind of hard to try to retrain or reprogram, because at the end of the day, that was the way I guess they were taught or what their perception is of other races and stuff like that. Because unfortunately, these are one of the reasons why, I don't like watching the news, because of the fact that a lot of the news is very negative. And that's like a super downer for me, in my opinion, So it's like every time you flip the TV on, oh, black male robbed this, this individual, or stole this car, gunshots fired. And a lot of the times, it's sad to say, but a lot of the times on the news, it's always a black male, in very rare occasions or common occasions, to be a Hispanic, because I feel that on the top of the list of the minority is black. And I feel that second place is Hispanic and Latinos, and then everybody else. I mean, let's be honest. How often do you see, a Caucasian or white individual on the news that does something bad? Super rare, I mean, it's it's insane. But, again, I mean, with situations like this, don't get me wrong. Over the course of history, since, Martin Luther King Jr. and, his movement and whatnot, and Rosa Parks, and going back into, into history, it has gotten better as in terms of the racism, but it still exists. You know what I'm saying? Now, I see that let me see ISO. Let me see. Oh, it looks like he stepped off. I had somebody on the chat. All right. So Dev, so I'm gonna ask you something. So considering that you are a man of dark skin color, all right. Now, if I remember, you said your nationality is what? You said you were.
We'll just leave that. Yeah, we'll leave the nationality part alone. Just because the reality is this: the color says more to people than anything else.
You're right. So for a man of dark skin tone, I mean, have you had maybe not similar experiences, but have you had, experiences where you were discriminated on based on your color? Do you recollect any situations that you may have encountered your own experiences?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, just I could say the last time we went traveling or whatever. We went to Atlantic City, and we're in a hotel. I mean, a pretty decent hotel. It wasn't exactly cheap, and we asked the one of the people who work at the hotel, young woman, middle age, white woman. We asked her about the different things in the area. And, she goes to tell us a bunch of places, a bunch of different things. And she feels the need to say, well, we have down, on the opposing street here, stuff is a little bit more expensive. So, probably for you, it'd probably be a little better to go on the other side where the stuff is, a little bit cheaper.
Wow. So she was already pressing you, trying to say like, you ain't got no bread, you ain't got no money.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
exactly. So, and see, and what I always find interesting, right, about these situations is it becomes a thing where it's like, it wasn't about how much money I made. It was about the assumption on what I looked like and what that equated to.
Right.
Because let's be real, she works at the hotel. I 100% make more money than she does.
Right.
So what would make her jump to the conclusion that I needed to stay where the cheaper stuff was and stay away from where the expensive stuff was?
Wow.
And I find it interesting because, my girlfriend, she at the moment did not really realize what happened until we walked off and got on the elevator, and then it kind of hit her like, did she really just say that?
Right.
And that's because she herself, being, she's Hispanic, but she grew up in a Hispanic surrounding. So there was no one discriminating against her. They were all on equal footing. They all considered each other family, all considered each other the same. So even for her, it was like a shock that like this was an actual reality, being that it was something she never experienced. Which is why I've always said to people that racism will only die when the privileged start to speak up.
Agreed.
Because when I say this, it's me complaining.
Right.
When someone who has nothing to gain from this one way or the other is complaining, it's looked at different, it's viewed different.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I mean, that's just one of many situations. I mean, I get followed in stores all the time to the point that I tell the person following me, like, I make them work for it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're going to follow me around, I mean, I'm going to need that off the top shelf. I'm going to need you to go in the back and check this. I'm going to need this shirt in 6 sizes. I'm going to try all 6 on. I mean,
yeah, you put them to
if
work.
we're going to play the game, we're going to play the game. I mean, you're going to earn this every dollar if you're going to follow me through a store.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, and it's crazy, man. It's crazy that you say that because me as a Hispanic, I've had situations, and it's interesting because I'm very light skinned. I'm white as hell. I'm pale, and because of the way I dressed, because I was born and raised, in the hood. I was born and raised, in the ghettos of Sunset Park back in the 80s, and I grew up in that urban life wearing, the baggy jeans and, the large, extra large shirts, looking all hood and stuff. And, when I used to walk into establishments and stuff, whether it was looking for sneakers or clothes, I had somebody behind me, like, constantly looking at me like, oh, peeping me. Oh, do you need some help? Even in certain situations, asked me if I needed help like 2-3 times after I told them, no, I'm good. I'm just browsing around, So it is an uncomfortable feeling. I mean, I can't say that my experience is going to be the same as yours, but having that experience, it's demoralizing. It makes you feel like shit, dude. But it's insane, man. And I even remember going back, even when I was a kid, I was like maybe 10 years old. I had a big baggy, huge ass coat. It was wintertime, and I walked into this store, and I was looking for like little toys and stuff like that. And as I was walking out, the owner of the store actually stopped me and was talking to me in Spanish and saying that, oh, let me check your pockets. Yo, this person dead ass put their hands in my pocket thinking that I actually stole something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, when I went to my mom's, okay, I was like, Mom, so-and-so did this and this is what happened. My mom went in there, she raised hell. You know what I'm saying? And it was crazy, man. It was crazy, bro. My mom wilded out. I'm surprised my mom even tried to, press him for a lawsuit for that. You know what I'm saying? But going back to the whole situation, I mean, it's ridiculous, man. And I mean, who knows what the future holds, man. I mean, the crazy part is that with the way this generation of human beings, we're becoming more interracial, man. We're getting like super mixes. So my question is, how long is racism gonna last? Especially, when you're gonna have, a couple of years down the line, couple of decades down the line, I feel like there's gonna be no such thing as a purebred mix. You know what I'm saying? But what do I know?
I mean, the funny thing about what you said is that it's already heading that route.
Yeah.
And even to this currently, there are no full breeds for the most, at least not in this country. I mean, because in all actuality, most people, if they run DNA, you've got a little bit of everything. I mean, I've always told people when it comes to racism, the heavy racist people and the people far to one side, with the hateful and all the other stuff, their time is coming because soon they'll all be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to remind yourself that, like, anytime someone who's 70, 80 years old says something racist, the first thing that goes to my mind is you got about 10 years left, bro. Get it out your system because you're going to be dead soon.
Yeah.
And no one's going to remember you because we're going to have evolved long past that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the reality of it. Like every other thing, for the most part, they're dinosaurs and they are already becoming extinct.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
You know what I mean? So
but that's one of the things that that I feel was a great tool that has changed these generations, besides the movements and these big names that altered the history in America. It's true though, honestly, death is the only thing that cleans away all the old and lets in the new. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, hopefully, God willing, when my time is up, the whole issue with racism, hopefully by then diminishes. God knows when the hell I'm kicking this bucket, you know what I'm saying? Because one thing I learned was, the only two things in life that's guaranteed is death and taxes, bro. You know what I'm saying? And
they both come for you.
Oh yeah, 100%. So for the people watching, if you guys have any feedback, you're more than welcome to, put your comments in the chat box. I'll read them out on the podcast here, or if you want, you can jump in, on the podcast if you want to speak on here. I use Discord for the communication. I posted the link in the chat box. If you don't have a Discord account, just create one. It doesn't take too long and it's free. You can download it for your iOS device or Android. You can use it on Mac or PC. So you have those options. Other than that, also guys, another thing, very, very important. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to click on the notification bell as well. So anytime I post up any new vlogs or podcasts, you guys are alerted immediately, and tune in. So I'm gonna give a few minutes, since there's like a lag time between the video feed and the chat. Try to give anybody any opportunities. What's your feedback? How do you feel about the whole Starbucks arrest scandal? Have you experienced any racism against you? Any scenarios? Let us know. Any of your comments would be greatly appreciated. Let me see if there's anybody in the chat. Nobody's here yet. All right, I'm gonna give them a minute. But yeah, man, I mean, it's sad, but we'll see how this whole thing plays out. At the moment, the CEO is playing out his cards. He's doing the best he can. I think he's doing a well job, in my opinion, handling the situation and heading it on, direct. I know the mayor of Philadelphia, is heavily involved in the situation. I believe the Philadelphia mayor is Jim Kenney, if I pronounce his name properly. I believe he met with the CEO of Starbucks as well in terms of the situation and whatnot. So apparently, not only is the Starbucks CEO wanting to meet the two men that were arrested in the situation. Also, I believe it is, I don't know if it's the captain or let me see, the head of the department.
Now that you brought that up,
Yeah.
I did think it was pretty interesting that, and I don't know whether or not you were aware, but there is the captain actually did, I'm not sure if he's the captain or whatever he is to the police, to the police. I just know that he is the person in charge. Which I thought was interesting because he's also black. I thought it was interesting that he spoke on the matter and defended this.
Right. And considering he was black as well, he said that that the policemen, his men approached the situation properly, followed the protocols and procedures, which, to be honest with you, if you look at it from that perspective, they did, they did their job. They came in, they were supposed to remove someone from the premises. They did it without brutal force. They didn't beat their asses. You know what I'm saying? So in retrospect, the cops did their job. Of course, this day and age, with all the things that have happened, with a lot of police brutality and all that stuff, I feel that they handled the situation quite well. It's just unfortunate that was the situation that they were in, and it turned into this whole big fiasco. So at the end of the day, the people who are under fire right now is Starbucks as a company, unfortunately, because you know how people are. Once you have a target on a label, forget it, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? That it's not just the manager that called, the cops and started this whole situation. It's the company. It immediately goes to the whole shebang. Yeah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate, and these situations shouldn't occur, and proper education hopefully should be and will be administered. We'll see how that goes in the upcoming days or whatnot. So I mean, do you have any other final comments you got for the situation, Dev?
No, I mean, like I said, the one thing I will say is, and I think that speaks to how bad it is, that our takeaways, our positive takeaways from this is, well, at least the guys didn't get beat down or shot and killed.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is actually pretty sad that that's the current,
benchmark, right?
Yeah, where it's like, well, we're just glad, because I'm not, even for myself, when I heard the story, I was just like, I'm just glad they didn't get shot and killed.
Yeah, it could have been a whole
to the point
lot
where
worse.
They could have done anything and said anything to these guys, and all was in my mind was, I'm just glad they did not get shot, killed, or beat down.
Right.
Which says a lot on its own. Like I said, my only other thing would be where I guess I agree but kind of don't, is how it was handled. Just because I do understand in certain situations, as a cop, your job is not easy, but it is your job that you chose to take on. So for me, I just look at the situation and think to myself, well, if they're just sitting there, because, I mean, if they're not doing anything that's could have negative connotations to the situation, which
Right.
they weren't, then I think that that's your place to even ask the manager, why exactly are they being removed? Because simply saying, well, I just don't want them there, that's kind of a different type of conversation. And, I feel like that would then have to be handled different. Like I said, even if they gave them the right phrasing, so him saying trespassing, no, it's not trespassing. It's a business. I mean, if that's the case, everyone in here is trespassing.
Exactly. It's open to the public, so that's contradictory.
Yeah, like if that's the case, then Starbucks wouldn't have business because everyone would be trespassing. So at the very least, as an officer, you should, if you're going to follow through with this, you should probably call it what it would be, which is not trespassing. You know, have the right things, you know, come with the right tools. I still don't think they had to be handcuffed, but I mean, you know, to each his own, I guess. You know, they know more about, you know, their jobs than I would ever. So,
Right.
you know, but like you said, it could have been worse. So that is the one positive thing to take from this, was that it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I agree.
So
No, I agree 100%. You know, so that's a good point that you put out there. You know, good thing is that, you know, the men are fine. It didn't turn out to be, you know, one of those situations where somebody's getting choked to death or, you know, 21 gun salute. So I'm glad that worked out. I mean, you know, you know, the unfortunate thing here is that whether it's a cop, you know, whether it's, you know, white, black, you know, Hispanic, whatever nationality. I mean, at the end of the day, there's good and there's bad people on both sides of the fence, you know, and that's another issue that you know humanity has as a whole, is that, you know, once a cop does something bad, every cop is bad. You know, once a particular person from a particular race does some, you know, wild shit, then, you know, that person, like, it becomes the poster boy of the rest of that particular race, and that's bad, and it shouldn't be like that, you know. Like I tell everyone,
absolutely,
in every, no matter what color, listen, black, Hispanic, white, there's going to be good people and there's going to be bad people. There's going to be good cops, there's going to be bad cops, you know. There's going to be, you know, evil, you know, Hispanics. There's going to, you know, listen, it is what it is, you know. There's going to be good and bad on both sides, you know, yin yang. That's it. That's all I got to say. But, you know, at the end of the day, as human beings, you know, we have to, you know, raise our level of consciousness and you know, stay woke. That's pretty much my takeaway from the whole situation, you know. So other than that, you know, Dev, I appreciate you, you know, coming on tonight, you know, and you know, taking the time out of your day to participate in the podcast. I'm pretty much going to conclude it for this video here. For those who watched, I appreciate your support. You know, keep watching. You know,
Thanks for the invite as well.
Nah, absolutely, 100%, man. And I definitely look forward to having you participate in some future podcasts as well. You give a lot of great insight, a lot of good information. It's always good to have different perspectives, you know, from different people. Again, I think that's a great way to learn, you know, and grow from. You know? So, guys, signing off. Appreciate you guys. You know, see you guys on the next one. Peace.